Welcome to the Whitetail Advantage Podcast with your host, Brett Bovin. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the show.
What is up, everyone? This is the Whitetail Advantage Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Bovin. The producer, the deucer, is not here tonight. It's me running solo as the host. If this is your first time tuning into the show, thank you for tuning in. We do a live show Monday through Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Each week, we'd dedicate 3 days out of the week covering a state, talking to multiple guests from that state each day of the week, getting to figure out what it's like to be successful out there, how they're being successful, and just getting the rich history of the traditions out in that state. There could be times where we don't have a guest, and those times we'll open the door to the audience, the listener, to come on the show, and we can make a recording out of it. We make a post generally around 11:30 noon if you ever want to come on, so make sure you stay tuned for those if that ever happens. Tonight is not that situation, though. This show can be controversial at times, if you haven't noticed. All I ask, though, from you as the listener is to put a quarter in the slot machine. What do you mean by that, Brett? All I ask is you share the show by spreading the word of hunting. Hunting is dying in this country. You guys know my stance on it. I know we'll have other episodes where I go on my rants again, but I'm not going to be doing that tonight. Let's just kind of get into the show for tonight. So today is episode 58. We're in Kansas, so we got a guest that's in Indiana, but we have a cool product that I just freaking absolutely love that's based out of Kansas. So it's like best of both worlds type of tonight. So with that being said, let's bring in our guest for tonight, Derek. Hey, Derek.
Hey, I like the false applause. That was pretty sweet. So.
I'm glad you like it.
I don't normally get applause, so that was great for me. So,
well, Derek, for everyone that doesn't know you, can you give a quick little background about yourself?
Yeah. So my name's Derek Craig. So I'm in my mid 50s. I am in Indiana, and I'm a bow hunter. So there. Yeah. So anyways, I grew up here in Northeast Indiana and did not grow up in a hunting culture or a hunting family. Really kind of discovered it in my late teens and early 20s. Really after I graduated college is when then it really started to take off, and really didn't have a mentor or anything, and really pretty much self-taught everything I know. This is pre-internet days and stuff. So, in the early through the mid 90s, when I was in my mid 20s or so, you're just learning through magazines, Field and Stream and North American Whitetail and stuff like that. And, and just progressively, and there was a little bit of hunting TV, back in the day, the Real Tree stuff, the Wild Country stuff, like the Jay Gregory and, Jackie Bushman and all that stuff. And that's all you had back then to learn. So just kind of taught myself. So I'm primarily a whitetail hunter and a turkey hunter. I used to do a lot more of it, but I love to waterfowl hunt. I used to do a lot more than I do anymore now. Now it's pretty much just whitetails and turkeys and primarily with bow, with both of those. Raised 2 daughters. They'll be 23 and 25 this summer, and both of them were avid hunters growing up. Both of them took their first animals when they were like 7 or 8 years old. And my oldest now, she's married and lives kind of on the north side of Indianapolis. So she's kind of gravitated away from hunting. She loves it. She thinks it's awesome. It's just, she'll go with me, but it's really not what she's ate up with. Now, my youngest daughter, who is in college, so she doesn't get to hunt as much as she wants to, but she's pretty ate up with hunting. She, when she comes home over Christmas breaks or Thanksgiving breaks and stuff, she does a lot of deer hunting with me, and she's a bow hunter. She does not have any desire to shoot an animal with a gun. And then she'll be coming home here in a couple weeks and probably do some turkey hunting. This is her last semester at Purdue University, and then she's going to move out to Iowa and go to Iowa State for a couple years for a master's. So her hunting is going to kind of come to a grinding halt, but she's kind of fun because she's really ate up with it. She loves it. She loves everything about it. She's fun to take hunting, and we just have a lot of fun together. But yeah, that's kind of me. I've worked in the outdoor industry now for since about 2009 or so. I started a little actual business and YouTube channel many years ago called New Day Outdoors Productions. And it's just kind of organically grown in a slow burn kind of method over the years. But what it did was it introduced me to several companies, and the one that I'm probably known the most for, and I know you're excited to talk about being a Kansas company, is Magnus Broadheads. Mike Staum, who owns Magnus Broadheads, he and I met in 2000, I think it was 9, and hit it off. I'm actually a mechanical engineer. And so he really gravitated to kind of my technical background and the advice I could give and help him out with products and help him troubleshoot things. And so it's been a wonderful working relationship and friendship. He's one of my dearest friends for all these years. And I've aligned myself with a lot of other different companies in the hunting industry and done quite a bit with them. You know, and they're really based them all around friendships and relationships. And, you know, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. I've you know, had stuff on actual like Outdoor Network TV shows, won a film festival, placed well in a couple others, I got articles in magazines that my photography work's been in, and you know, and company brochures for different products and tech manuals and, you know, website. I mean, I've just done a lot over the years. So that's really kind of me in a nutshell. Just a dude that loves to bow hunt, and for me, the hunting industry has been a fun little side gig thing. It's kind of a playground that now at least there's a lot of times a little bit of a paycheck that comes along with that, so that's kind of a nice perk. But yeah, it still is all about having fun and making friends and relationships and just doing the, you know, adventures and filming and shooting photos. So but yeah, that's I guess that's me in a nutshell. So
Purdue, I just want to point on this because everyone that watches the show and knows me, I'm a huge Oregon Ducks fan. So I just want to point that out now that we've joined the Big Ten. So looking forward to that now.
Yep.
It's cool that you got your daughter is going into Purdue where you went, and now one's getting her master's now at Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's what's she getting her master's in?
So my youngest will graduate here in about 3 weeks from Purdue in animal sciences, and then she's getting a master's in some sort of animal sciences. I don't remember exactly what the degree will be, but she really, for whatever reason, so both of my kids, they grew up in 4-H and raising livestock and showing livestock, which was not in my background at all, but it was in my wife's. Although when they got in 4-H, she's like, I'm done. I'm not doing this. You can handle it. So I did. But my youngest daughter gravitated in college to working with production hog facilities, and she never worked with hogs in 4-H. She was a goat and a cattle and a poultry girl and rabbits. And so it's just been a weird thing, but she loves it. She's interned the last like 3 summers, graduating upwards each year. And she's working last summer, she worked in a research program at one of the largest hog production or pork production companies in the United States. And I know that her master's in animal sciences is around research. So yeah, she's doing great. And then my oldest daughter, she actually graduated from Purdue in construction management. And she's going back to Purdue here, I think anytime now. She's going to start and get her master's degree in construction management. So, which is cool. So, and I went there for my undergrad in mechanical engineering. So it's just a lot of Boilermakers. However, my wife is an Indiana University graduate. So there is that. So.
Oh man, that's awesome.
But we don't hold it against her. She and I will be married 30 years this coming October. So apparently we've made this divided house of IU and Purdue. We've made it work somehow. I don't know.
So there's no fist fights in the house when it's
No.
Indiana versus Purdue.
No. She takes it all. She's not a big sports person, and she takes it all in jest when we start dogging on IU or whatever. But I will say, look, when I was in college and we dated, I spent a lot of weekends at IU, and it's actually a wonderful university. It's a great campus. It's pretty cool, and I honestly root for IU to become relevant in basketball again, because I always say that college basketball is better when IU is relevant, and college football is always better when Notre Dame is relevant, even though I root against them. So that's how I look at it.
I'm a huge Oregon fan, but I grew up loving Notre Dame. My that's his number one team, and just the history along with Notre Dame. I don't know how you can not at least somehow cheer for them in any way.
Yeah. I mean, you want them to be good. Again, you want them to be good. So in those times when you do beat them, like we beat IU in basketball, or the times that we beat, say, Notre Dame or Ohio State in football at Purdue, you want those teams to be good, because it all of a sudden, it brings relevancy to your program and your school. It's something to be proud of. I mean, so yeah, but it makes it a lot more fun when those teams are relevant. So
you mentioned you're an archery guy. You public land, private guy. What's your go-to?
99% or more private land. So where I live in Indiana, I live in the very northeast corner of the state. There is some public, but there's not a ton. It's pressured very hard. I have been blessed. My in-laws are big farmers, so I actually have a couple properties, that they own that I hunt. I actually own my own ground here at my house, and I own another farm in southern Indiana. So I've just always hunted private ground. It's now I have hunted some public ground before, and I've had some success on it. But for me, it's just been mostly private, because that's just what I had access to. And honestly, too, is when I came up learning to hunt through the '90s, there wasn't this public land craze that there is now. I mean, you didn't even think about it. I mean, we knew it was there, but you'd hear these horror stories of, and it'd be mostly gun season horror stories that we've all heard, the typical stereotypes, which aren't necessarily fair, but you hear them. The Orange Army and wearing flak jackets, and you're just like, I don't want any part of that. I'll just stay on my little small chunk of private and just, play within this shoebox. But, it is kind of a walled off garden. But what I found is you can be pretty effective in deer and turkey hunting, or whatever type of hunting in those smaller properties, starting to kind of micro scout and, look at the small details and figure things out. And, I mean, you can only go so far. Whereas if you're hunting, thousands and thousands, for example, I own property in southern Indiana, butts up to Hoosier National Forest, which is a big broken up piece of public, hundreds of thousands of acres. But, you can just keep on going and keep on going. But I kind of find that I like the challenge of working within that smaller confined area. But that's my background, and so it's my comfort zone. You know what I mean?
You know it, so it's like I'm not watching it when I feel comfortable with it, and I can execute it to a high level.
Yeah, I mean, again, I've hunted some public. I mean, I've hunted turkeys more on public than deer. And I've had a lot of success hunting turkeys on public. I mean, even out west, the Black Hills and some other places, and even here in Indiana. But I start getting anxiety when I think about it, because I just know here in private, like even if it's 80 acres, you're like, nobody's supposed to be here. Now, knock on wood, doesn't mean somebody can't be trespassing, but for the most part, I really don't have to deal with many trespassing issues. And some of that is too, you kind of start letting people know, that it's not going to be tolerated. And so, one person does it and they find out, when you lower the hammer on them, that like that trickles out. And next thing you know, people aren't, trespassing. So, and now it's hard to trespass with cell cams and everything. It's next to impossible to trespass without getting busted these days, so.
And I don't like the people that steal the cameras either. On that real quick, it's like, and then because then you have them, there's the GPS in them, so it's like, why?
Yeah.
One of my biggest pet peeves, besides
Yeah.
deer running across the street when I'm driving to work.
Yeah. 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 So,
I-
but yeah, so I'm mainly private land guy. So,
You mentioned that you hunt turkeys with a bow. Now that's something I've always wanted to I've never turkey hunted. That's something I want to get into more this year. And obviously I'm going to be using that broadhead from Magnus for turkey, but what's it like turkey hunting with a bow? I mean, everyone I've talked to, it's like, it's nearly impossible. Oh, you can't really do it because their eyes are so great. I mean,
well,
how
so,
are you finding success with it?
well, I mean, the most obvious answer is use a ground blind to decoys. I mean, that's the most obvious answer. And I would be lying. I mean, if I said that, that hasn't been the bulk of my turkey kills with a bow. And think of what you want of it. I mean, some people hate the idea of ground blinds and turkey hunting. They just say it's not really turkey hunting, and it's fine. Everybody's got their own way of hunting. I mean, I've killed over 50 with a bow. I know that. How many, I'm not exactly sure. But primarily out of a ground blind over decoys. So from that aspect, I mean, as far as difficulty level, it's a different kind of difficult. Okay. Yeah, you're hidden from their eyes and everything, but you're not going to get up and move. You're not going to go run and chase down the tom. So you're going to have to rely on patience, on letting your decoys do the work, doing your homework to be in a spot where the turkeys want to be. Some knowing when to call and not, which is applicable across the board to turkey hunting, but you just can't get the aggressive style that you can, in run and gun hunting with, shotgun, which that's awesome. I've killed so many of them that way back in the day before I started bow hunting them, and it's fun. There's no denying that is still fun. But that's basically how I've done it now. I have killed them on the ground with a bow without a blind. I've done it. I did it quite a bit back in the day before the ground blind thing really kind of started taking off and everything. What I did try and do last year, a lot of, and I failed, I actually missed a bird, was I wanted to head shoot one with my bow and self-film it all from the ground without a ground blind. So just sitting there on the ground like you would shotgun style. And I did have two birds come in. It was about a 14-yard shot, and I was head shooting them with the Magnus bullhead, which I've had a ton of success with over the years out of ground blinds, and I just barely missed that bird's head by fractions of an inch to the left. And all I can figure is I rushed the shot and I kind of yanked it. But so that's kind of been my challenge that I've been set forth for myself. It really takes a lot of time and all that. But if you're going to do it, the ground blind really is a way to go. A quality set of decoys is a way to go. Set the decoys in close at 7-8 yards and, pull those birds in, give them time to settle in, whether you're body shooting them or head shooting them, that really with a bow is the best way to do it. And that's what I would encourage anybody to do if they really wanted to go into it, try and learn to bow hunt turkeys. Start there, get a few under your belt, especially if you're going to body shoot them, try and learn, that kill zone, because that kill zone on a body shot on a turkey is hard. In my opinion, it's much easier to take a headshot and kill them that way. Just because the kill zone, I believe, is bigger and it's clearly defined and it's easy to identify and put the pin on. But the ground blind is going to be your best bet. And then after that, if you want to ditch the ground blind, I'd encourage anybody to do it. It's a rush, man. It is absolutely a rush doing it with a bow. So, but yeah, that's really it. You got to learn to be in a blind and be confined. You're not going to run. You're not going to pick up and go, so right. Especially if you're filming, because now all of a sudden you got even more gear. But to pick up and move on a turkey, even if you weren't filming, to pick up your ground blind, fold it all up, get your bow put back together, arrows in the quiver, pick up your decoys and move. I mean, you're talking probably a 15-minute process to that tear down before you're moving. So, and then you're going to get to where you are and you're going to have to, put it all back out and do it quietly and efficiently. And it's just not run and gun style hunting,
Yeah.
So, but it does play in very well to the small tracts of, say, private land, because I always say, like, for example, here at my house, I own about 80 acres at my house. There's only like 13 acres of woods here. And I always tell people, where am I going to run and gun to? Like, it's seriously, I mean, it's mostly open fields. You're not going to run and gun. Even in the like 13 acres of woods, it's relatively flat. And before the foliage is on, you can see through from one side to the other. Where are you going to run and gun? You're not. The best thing to do, whether you're gun hunting or out of a blind or sitting on the ground, gun hunting or bow hunting, is just set your butt in one spot and be patient and wait, because there's nowhere to run and gun, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we're not talking, on vast amounts of public land where you can just go moving on birds, so anyways.
I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question. Where are you finding the most success in trying to put yourself in and waiting for the turkeys to come in? What are you finding what's their core area, how they're traveling? What are you looking for on the birds' movement and how you were setting up on them?
Yeah, so usually not too tight to roosts. I typically stay back off of roosts, although, I mean, I've gone in the dark and and usually it was by accident on some, maybe a property I really don't have a lot of history with. And I've actually set up with it, going in the dark, set up a ground blind, set the decoys, doing all this stuff, trying to be quiet, obviously. And the sun comes up and they start gobbling and you got one 30 or 40 yards right behind you. You're like, how did I not blow that bird out of here? I'll never figure it out. But for the most part, I try and stay off the roosts a couple 100 yards, get away from them, get in a zone where hopefully I've gone and scouted and found that they like to strut or hang out, or, the hens like to, maybe I've got a couple of hens that are regularly walk through every day. Well, eventually a tom's going to, follow one of those hens. Typically in a spot that's got some elevation to it. Turkeys tend to, especially in the open, they like to be on a higher spot. And so when you even look at like in the part of Indiana I'm at, it's pretty flat. There's not a lot of topography. So looking out across the 50-acre cornfield, there might only be 3 feet of elevation out in 200 yards off, a wood line. Well, turkeys love those spots, even that little bit of elevation change. So a lot of times, getting up on a spot like that, the birds like those elevations because they can see 360 degrees around. They can look for predators. A bird sitting out there, he steps out of a tree line, he sees some decoys sitting out there, and they ignore ground blinds. So you don't have to worry about brushing them in. And to them, it looks like a natural thing that birds want to do. And if you ever are in farmland that's got turkeys in big fields, open fields like where I live, you're going to see turkeys 200 yards off of tree lines, and they'll be out there typically a lot of times on those higher spots, I mean, not always, but a lot, but that's what I look for. And that's where I kind of go, gravitate towards, sometimes it just depends. Like here on my land, I know the 2 or 3 spots to go. It's, I mean, I've owned this property for 15, 16 years. I mean, I just know the spots to go. But if I was going into a new 50-acre farm that only had like 10 trees on it and it's mostly cut cornfield, I would just survey it and go, okay, well, that looks like a high spot there that's 75 yards off that corner. That's probably a pretty good, spot to set up. And, so that's the stuff I look for.
I know the field that I hunt on, it's not flat cornfield, but it's kind of got some ups and downs in the actual field.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I'm out there, when I do see the turkey, first off, I love seeing turkey because I always have great luck when I see a turkey. It's either that day or the day after I'm shooting a deer, and they always somehow manage. I hear them coming, and then I look away, look on the other side, and come over, and they're right on top of that little knoll.
Yeah. So I know, well, and that doesn't, I mean, that kind of applies in most situations, but I know like this weekend, actually tomorrow I'm going to leave to do some scouting for it, but I'm going to a new property in southern Ohio, and it's a lot of timber on this property. It's private land. It's a big chunk of private land, just shy of 2,000 acres. And I'll be the only one there hunting. Well, there's actual logging roads on it and stuff. So just looking at it, from the satellite maps, there's intersections, there's larger, they've got to be strut zones. So those are the areas when I go down and I spend Friday because he's an open Saturday down there. I'm going to go to those areas first on Friday to look, see if I can either put eyes on birds, see if I can see tracks, see if I can see, drag marks in the ground, see what the elevations are on them and everything. Some of them I already know because I've looked at some topo stuff, so I got some good ideas. But those, even in a wooded, in a timber setting, those are the things that I'm kind of looking for typically, or, where can, being a bow hunter, that's what I'm looking for. Now, if I was running gun, shotgun hunting them down there, I wouldn't ignore those spots, but I would go at it with a whole different approach of, trying to find the roosts and slide in on them on the timber. Then, that way, if the birds that I've got in, say, one roost doesn't work out, then I can, when they go a different direction, I can pull up and head somewhere else to chase some other birds or, reposition. I mean, but when it comes to bow hunting, that's the way I'm going to attack it. I'm going into this one completely blind, but that's the way I'm going to attack this one this weekend. So.
And the bullheads that you're using, let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah.
How did that idea become about, and how did it get implemented into finally coming to the final product?
From a Magnus perspective, well, so in about 2004, I think it was, somewhere in that neighborhood, there was the Guillotine broadhead that came out. It was a 4-blade head chopper. It was the first of them that came out. You had to take these little green straws that had sticky tape. You put double-sided sticky tape on each blade, and then you took this green straw and you put it on the blades, and that stuck to the tape. And the things, you couldn't like take them apart. There was no way. They just came apart in a zillion pieces. And that was like the first attempt. And I actually had some of those. This before I knew about, I knew Mike from Magnus. I mean, I knew of Magnus because I shot their deer heads a few times back in those days. And so that was the first attempt at it. From a Magnus perspective, Magnus launched the bullhead I think it was in 2008. This is before Mike and I actually knew each other. And Mike had been hunting with Brooks Johnson and Keith Beam from the Double Bull days and some other guys. And those guys had been using they've been using the guillotines. The problem with the guillotine was the straws and the parts and pieces, but nobody knew then what we know now about head chopping heads. And the key to head chopping heads, broadheads, making them fly, really is not only the bow tune, but it's the arrows and the fletching systems on the arrows. Well, nobody knew this back then. Okay. So the guillotine, while I would say, I definitely agree, it's not a superior product. The bullhead is definitely probably the best head chopping head. I know it's the best head chopping head that's been made. Although Tim Wells has a very nice one as well that's out right now. But so it was a far superior product, but in the guillotine's defense, nobody knew how to make them fly to begin with. And that's why they used those little green straws. So they were trying to come up with a better mousetrap. Like, how do we make these fly better? How can we eliminate these stupid straws and all that? And so there were some ideas kicked around back and forth, and this predates me really, although, I've talked to, I know a lot of the history of it, and I know that there's always 2 or 3 sides of the story, but there's been some claims that Brooks and Keith from Double Bull designed it and they this and that and everything, and it's not true at all. In fact, recently Beamer actually said that on a podcast, and there's no truth to it whatsoever. And I know Keith, he's a good guy, but so Mike and another guy by the name of Woody Sanford actually ended up coming up with the final design for the bullhead. And I've actually seen some of the original prototypes. It kind of looked like, if you've ever seen at least when I was a kid in the 70s and 80s, people would have these little things they'd stick in their lawn on a windy day, and it was like this thing, it just spun in the wind. It was like a flower looking thing. Like, wouldn't that be cool if we could launch something like that at a turkey's head and cut its head off? So I've seen actually the prototypes. They were not too distant from that. But so they ended up coming up with it, and there's some tricks to it in the design, some very fine details that you really have to know what you're looking for to pick it out as to why they do fly so well. So when I joined them in 2009, when Mike and I crossed paths, we still, at that point in time, everybody really thought it was just make the head, designing the head so it would fly. Well, Woody was still around, and I, being a mechanical engineer, and we said, and Mike, and so the three of us basically ended up figuring it out. The arrow and the fletching system was so critical to the whole thing. And so once we figured that out, and we really promoted it as a system, that's kind of where the bullhead really started to take off. So, and it's ramped up for us at Magnus every year since then. In fact, right now, I was just texting with Mike yesterday or today, and he was saying that right now, at this point in the season, bullhead sales are higher than they've ever been. So, and every year it just picks up more and more and more. And it's definitely is a niche market. You know, you're not going to sell every turkey hunter on them, and not even every bow hunter of turkeys. I would love to, but you're just not going to. You're not going to convince everybody that shooting them in the head is the way to go, and that's fine. That's cool. You know, there's different flavors of ice cream for everybody out there. But it's been a great product, and once you figure out the system, and I've done so many videos on the Magnus channel and my channel on, you know, teaching people how to set up for them, why you have to set up, because I really think that once you understand the why, then you'll be like, okay, now I'm more accepting of buying this arrow or setting up this type of arrow, fletching it this way. Here's how you practice with them, and la-di-da-di-da. And ultimately, at the end of the day, lead somebody to success. Because if they don't have that guidance, they become very frustrated. And I was frustrated early on, to be honest with you. But again, we didn't know about the arrow stuff. And for me, I was just like, this has got to work. I mean, you got to be able to make these fly. And I was just so tired. I'd killed so many birds with shotguns. I was tired of killing them with shotguns. And I'd lost so many birds with body shots. And I wanted to bow hunt them so bad. And, you know, I mean, I would shoot 3 in the body, I'd recover 1, you know, and I got so frustrated that I just knew there had to be, you know, a way to do this by shooting them in the head. And so I was just persistent. And, you know, luckily Mike and I hit it off, and Woody's now, he's gone off to do other things. I don't even think he hunts anymore or anything, but so now it's just kind of Mike and I doing the whole show at Magnus. And, you know, so here we are all these years later.
Jack commented on here saying, "Good luck this weekend, buddy. I'll be pulling for you."
Yeah, Jack's a good dude. Jack's a good dude. So he's one of the key reasons I have that property in Southern Ohio. So I'm excited. So
oh, nice.
Yeah.
At what point did you guys realize that the arrow plays a bigger role than what you thought of? How long did it take you guys to kind of like, you know what, maybe it's the arrow?
I'd say it was around 2010 or so when we started, and figured we were on to something then. We tried a bunch of different arrows, different spine configurations. You know, one of the problems to any head chopping head, this is just not the bullhead, okay? There's a couple problems that you got to address. One is you got this giant head out here, and so most of us, when we cut down our whitetail arrows, we cut them down so that broadhead typically is somewhere falls within the riser shelf. You know, a lot of times, heck, go back to the overdraw days, many years ago, go behind the riser. Well, when you got a big giant head chopping head, you can't do that because it'll hit the riser. So you got to get it away from the riser. So you're gonna have to go to a longer arrow. Well, if you know anything about arrows, when you increase your length of your arrow, you reduce the dynamic spine of the arrow. Okay, every arrow is labeled with a spine, but there's something called a dynamic spine. Like that, the spine, just because you have a 300 spine arrow doesn't mean that it's 300 spine at all of its different lengths. So when you start cutting it down, you make it stiffer. When you make it longer, it gets weaker. So you lengthen it out, and now all of a sudden these guys that were shooting, say, 350 or 400 spine arrow for their whitetail, now they lengthened it, and like, wait a second, now I got a limp noodle. It's wanting to move too much. And then you start looking at, and again, this applies to all head choppers, is the aerodynamic forces on these blades, that are big blades that are out there. So all of a sudden you're like, well, I got to negate those. That increases even the spine, makes the spine even more critical, you know? You got to watch your sight ring. And so sometimes you got to be out in front of that or orient the blades properly. And then you got to steer all this, and you go, well, and I get guys all the time like, well, I just want to use some little blazer vanes. I'm like, guys, it's just not going to work. I mean, it might work at 5 yards, but it's not going to work at 20. So you start playing with different vane configurations and feather configurations, and I still mess around with those because every year there's new vanes or new things that come out, and I'll get people that ask me. In fact, this year I've messed around quite a bit with the AAE, the Max Hunters, and I actually got them to fly pretty good. I put 4 of them on the back of an arrow, and I got them to fly pretty good, pretty consistently out to 20 yards. I even, if there's no wind, was getting them to fly at 25 and 30. It's probably not what I'll throw in my quiver. I still like the four feather configuration for stability. But I still play with different fletching configurations because I get guys asking all the time because some guys just don't want to shoot feathers. So,
yeah, it seems like feathers are kind of like the old school, and you got the newer type model vanes, like the new day and age thing, and this huge thing in the whitetail deer industry. Obviously, for fletching, and heck, I've seen more fletching around it, and I love AEE for their vanes, and I use them on my arrows, and it's cool to see, though, you can kind of mix both of them into your arrow setup when you're hunting with turkeys. And I this message from Jeff. He also stated, and Derek Craig is the best. Jeff Martin is a huge fan. Decapitation Nation.
Yeah, good old Jeff Martin. So he's good. He's one of my best friends. So anyways, but yeah, so the AAE, I found that the Max Hunters will work. But even with limitations, and look, we're bow hunting turkeys, head chopping them. Really, it's a 15-yard and in game. I mean, if you feel confident making them fly at 20, then go for it. Putting 4 on there. But if you're wanting to stretch stuff out, that's definitely not the vane for you now. And I've tried all kinds of vanes, and really, that's the only one that I've gotten fly even reliably at 20 yards and in. But the feathers are the way to go. I mean, some guys, I believe it. I think Tim Wells shoots flu-flus on his with his heads. I mean, so, and Chris B was actually shooting flu-flus. He shoots the bullheads, and I've talked to him several times about it. He was shooting flu-flus for a couple of years, and this year I think he was going to try an actual vane. I watched a video of his, and he was getting the fly decent. Again, you got to remember. So here's the problem is people go, okay, I understand it's a 15-yard in game. I mean, the vast majority of the birds I've killed with a bullhead are at 7 and 8 yards. Okay, I've killed them as close as 4. I've killed a couple out at 25. The problem is that guys can say, I understand it's a 15-yard and in game, but next thing you know, they got a bird hanging up at 25 or 30 yards. And most of them don't have, like, if I get one hanging up at 25 or 30 yards, I'm not even shooting. I'm just not going to. I'll hunt one another day. But a lot of these guys don't have the time to hunt that much. They, maybe they haven't killed many birds. They just want to kill one. And now all of a sudden you're taking a poke at 25 or 30 yards. And if you don't have the steering on the back end of that arrow, you're going to leave with a sour taste in your mouth. And at that point, I would tell somebody, look, you want something that steers it as best as possible, and that's a 4-fletch, 4-inch feather, period. That's it. I mean, that will steer them. I've got videos of me shooting drinking water bottles out at 50 yards, but you got to have a perfect tune. You got to have good shooting form. You got to have no wind. I mean, but you can make these things fly at a long distance with feathers. And I'd never advise anybody taking long shots at turkeys with them, but it happens. I know it happens all the time. Guys, like, yeah, I'm going to kill one at 10 yards. And next thing you know, they got one standing at 30 yards and he's not coming in. And they're like, what the heck? And they're at full draw and letting it fly, So, yeah, you're going to be sadly disappointed with vanes if you go that route. Sadly. I mean, if you go with vanes, you better commit to 15 yards is it. That's it. Period. So
there was a comment in here that Don was asking if you'd rather have 4-fletch or 3. What is your opinion? AAE or blazers? And he also went on a comment of he thinks Chris is shooting the tacks.
Yeah, he might be. I watched Chris's last video here a few weeks ago. I don't remember exactly. Four fletch all the time. It's going to steer. The only time I've ever gotten 3 fletch to steer a bullhead is using 3 5-inch long feathers. That's the only time. And the problem with that configuration is
3 5-inch long feathers.
5-inch long feathers will steer the bullheads. But the problem is, if you get on a bow that's got a short brace height, next thing you know, you're sitting there at rest, and the fronts of your feathers are into your rest. So you got to think, say on a 6 1/4 inch brace height bow, those feathers are going to be into the back side of your rest because your rest sits back of the riser, slightly. So,
right.
And your brace height is based off of the throat of the grip, which is inside of the shelf. So, that's where you're at. It's got to be 4. And really, the only reason I would even recommend the AAE vanes is the AAE Max Hunters. They're the tallest profile vane made, and they allow the steering of that. But the feathers is definitely the way to go. It really is. And I get it. They get wet. Feathers are a pain. They don't look pretty. I get it. But it just is what it is at the end of the day. So.
Right. I mean, when I've kind of get in the world of hunting whitetail deers, I grew up shooting feathers. That was my thing. And it wasn't until maybe my senior year that I was like, all right, I'm learning about plastic vanes and all this stuff. And it was kind of like this new thing I'm learning. And honestly, a part of me kind of wants to go back to feathers because if you don't like them, I think they're cool. It works great for my setup.
Yeah, even deer hunting, until this past year, I have always run feathers deer hunting with a compound.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of like, it was kind of like my retro kind of deal. And I just always did. I mean, not all. There was a time back in the early 2000s where I ran vanes a couple of years, but I just got for a long time, I hunted with a whisker biscuit rest until the last 5 or 6 years. I hunted with a whisker biscuit. And what I found was the feathers held up best. Yeah, they kind of got ruffled on the end and all that. But if you know anything about aerodynamics, again, being a mechanical engineer, there's something called a boundary layer. And actually, and you get turbulent and laminar boundary layers. And so that little bit of ruffle on the ends of the feathers, as they don't look pretty, it actually creates a laminar boundary layer where a smooth edge of a vane can add turbulence to it because it's actually too smooth. It's kind of like why a golf ball's got dimples, and I used to always joke, I'm like, yeah, the uglier the feathers, the better it flies. And it to a point, it does. And so I always did. One of the things I always liked about feathers, even deer hunting, was the blood. When you shoot, I would go help a buddy's track a deer and they shot on the veins. I'm like, there's blood on the veins, but it's like, it's not easy to see. Yeah. On the feathers, especially, I'd shoot like white and like really light yellow colored. Man, the blood was so easy to identify, and I really liked that. And so but this year I did switch over to the AAE, the Max Hunters, just for something different. And I like them, but yeah, I love feathers, man. I absolutely love them. And I'd run some nasty looking fletched arrows too. You look at the ends, you're like, I can't believe you haven't changed those out. I'd shoot a deer and I'd take them to my sink in my shop, squirt some Dawn dish soap on them, and scrub them with a brush, rinse them out and shake them off, let them air dry, and be like, yep, going back in the quiver they go. Do it all the time. Well, and another benefit I have is, if you've ever heard of Three Rivers Archery, they're the largest traditional archery supplier. They're like the Lancaster of traditional archery. They're like 2 miles down the road from me. So I just go down there and buy feathers from those guys, so I've got that. I just run down and buy, a pack of 50 or 100 feathers and whatever colors. And so I always had that. So I just,
right down the road.
Yeah, they're easy to glue on. You just use a super glue. You don't have to worry about like the AEs. You got to use the primer stick and then their glue. And the feathers, you just slap some super glue you buy at Home Depot on there and just go. So,
Yeah, I remember my dad, we were putting on the feathers and it was like, all right, it's this simple. Yeah. I tried doing that, not realizing what I needed to do when I first started fletching my arrows. So, all right, I'm going to do the same concept. It failed completely.
Yeah.
Like you can't apply the two.
Exactly. Exactly. So
Let's transition to the hunting here, 'cause we got maybe 20 minutes or so left in the show.
Yeah.
What I currently run now is the Magnus Stinger Broadheads, the with the bleeder and the serrated edges.
Mhm.
I know we talked about this on episode 5 when I had you on the show, but can you break down of how the serrated part of it works? Because I've heard talking to you last time, other companies they tried doing it and they failed completely.
Mhm.
What did you guys figure out that makes it so that it works so well and was like, all right, you guys figured it out. What'd you guys do?
Yeah, so everybody else who's done a serration does what we call a scallop serration. So go to your kitchen, grab a steak knife that's serrated, or
You want me to
grab
right
your right. And no. Or grab your, if you got a hunting knife or a utility knife that's got serrations on it, those are scallop serrations. And basically what they are, if you looked at a steak knife, is it goes from point and round to point to round to point. It's just a bunch of rounds that come to sharp points. And the problem with that is that all of your cutting, all of your sharp edges are down in that scallop part. They tend to clog up with sinew and hair and everything, because at the ends of the serrations, all you got is a point. We have what we call a chisel serration. Okay. If you look at our edge of our blade, you have the curved part, and then you have a straight area and down to a curved part. So the straight area literally looks like a chisel. Okay. So what happens then is that, yes, it's sharp down in the curve, but we're not really relying on that to do the cutting. Okay. So as that head, if we had a super slow motion video camera to film it, as that head is going through the hide, it's cut because it's cut on contact. It's cutting up that smooth edge of the blade. It gets to the first serration dip. Okay. The hide actually goes down into that dip because the hide has got tension. It wants to come back in and close up. And then it gets to that first little chisel, that first little straight piece. It gets cut. Then it dips into the next one. It gets cut. It does that 3 or 4 times, depending on how many serrations the different models have. And then it passes on out. So what you find is, let's say in a Stinger buzz cut, your main blade is roughly 1.25 inches, roughly 1.125 inches across. And on a Black Hornet Serrazer, it's roughly 1.25 inches across. We end up with an opening that will be exaggerated. So in a Stinger buzz cut, you'll get, say, that 1.1 inches, somewhere around 1.5 inches, 1.5 cut on the Black Hornet Serrazer, because the blade angle is steeper. It actually exaggerates it, and you'll get on that 1.25 inch wide blade, you'll get an opening in that hide that'll be 1.75 inches, 2 inches. We've even seen them over 2 inches wide. And I mean, this is customers sending us photos. I mean, myself, I've killed, I hate to even think how many deer with them. And I see it myself. I mean, I see bigger wound channels with them. We came out with the single bevel this year, and I shot 4 deer with the regular single bevel and 1 with a prototype of the buzz cut version of it. And the buzz cut one, the hole was just absolutely massive. The blood and the trauma was massive. That serration just does so much damage, and it's because it's that chisel design. Just bigger holes, and just, it's devastating. And hopefully a bigger hole leads to a better blood trail, more blood on the ground quicker. So hopefully a shorter blood trail, and resulting, a shorter track job to your deer. Does it always work that way? No, because there's so many other factors when every animal situation is different. But generally speaking, across the board, yes, it does. So
I've been looking at these broadheads while you're explaining that in great detail about it. The one thing I noticed, you said though, real quick, the single bevel broadhead, I noticed that's new. Right now, I'm looking on the Magnus website. At what I'm looking at, yeah, those. You said there's serrated ones? I don't see them on the website.
this is the absolute first package ready for retail right here in my hand. So
Are you
we have,
serious?
Yeah. So yes, I'm dead serious. So here's the deal. We worked on this project all last year. This is the non-serrated one. We had these at ATA in January. These started shipping to dealers, I want to say in mid-February. We had the serrated one. We had prototypes. I don't have any of the prototypes here. These actually still have fatty, bloody stuff on. These are smooth ones. These are actual ones I sent through deer. A serrated prototype must be out in the barn somewhere. But anyway, so we knew that we were trying to get the serrations right on them. The prototypes had 4 serrations that were smaller. We went back to the drawing board to rework the serrations. It took some tooling, a new tooling machine to actually cut the serrations on these. So we told dealers at ATA it's coming, but it will probably be around the 1st of April. And here we are, we're at mid-April, and this package was just sent to me from Mike last Wednesday or Thursday. And in fact, yesterday I opened it up, took one out, put it in my little product box to shoot photos. And because the deadline for Lancaster's product page was tomorrow, so this is literally the first package of the Serrazors in the official packaging right here. They will be live on the website. Mike texted me yesterday, I think it was. He said it would be another week or 2 before they'll be live on the website. But I gave him the photo actually today via email that will be on Lancaster's website. So, yeah. So I can actually take one out if you want to see it a little better on your camera here.
Yeah.
See if I can cut myself on live YouTube for everybody. See how well you can see this here. I'm not exactly sure, but I don't know if it.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Yeah. I think you can kind of see the serrations there.
Yep.
And you're looking at the back side. So let me flip around. Now you're looking at the front side of the serrations.
Okay.
Okay. But they're actually a little wider. Again, I don't know how well my camera is going to focus on this. They're a wider serration than a Black Hornet or a Stinger Buzzcut. They're just a bigger serration. It took a different tool we had to have made to do it. Plus, there's a little slight curvature on the blade. So there was just some logistics to it. The first ones we made had 4 serrations that were smaller because it was the same tool that we used to do the Black Hornet serrazors. And it worked. I mean, the deer I shot, it was wicked blood trail. There's a video on my YouTube channel on it. I mean, the blood it was insane. So, but yeah, so that's it right there.
Was that the same buck that you shot? That was your biggest archery buck? Did you shoot?
No, that was shot with one of these right here, one of these smooth ones. Probably this top one right here. No, this was a doe I shot late. I shot a doe late season. It was in the snow.
Yeah.
With this, yeah, it was crazy. So, but yeah,
I remember talking to you the last time, and everyone was really high on those Black Hornets.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying now though that and you said that was your favorite? Is this now your favorite compared to the Black Hornet now, or is Black Hornet?
No, I love the Black Hornet Serrazor. I just love it. I love it for whitetail game. I mean, this is great. This is a great head for whitetail game. I really think, even though I just literally 2 weeks ago killed a hog in Texas with a Black Hornet Serrazor, I didn't have the production ones of these, or I would have taken. I think this would be a great hog head. I think it's going to be great on big game if you want to split bone. It's a great whitetail head. I like a 4-blade head. It's flavors of ice cream. To me, the Black Hornet will always be a special head to me. It was the first head that I had an integral part in helping design and had a lot of input on and helped bring to market. And for me, that just will always be a special broadhead to me personally. And so while I hunted with the single bevels all this past year, I did it for testing purposes, and it's great. It's a great head. It really is. I think they're awesome. If this is the type of head you want, it's going to perform great, flies great. But for me, I love that Black Hornet Serrazor. It's just devastating head. So yeah,
that's going to be the because I've been shooting the Stinger Buzzcuts now for I don't even know how long.
It's an amazing head. Amazing head.
It's beautiful. I mean, it's just artwork in it, and I remember I shot my deer last year with it, and it pierced through part of the 2 ribs on the entrance and exit, and we ended up gutting it, and I was like, "It really went through bone?" I'm like, "Yep,
Mhm.
look right here, and went through 2 of them." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Holy crap."
Yeah.
And I just love that one, and then this year is gonna be my first year trying out the Blackhorn Stare Racer.
Yeah. Yeah. I think on whitetail you'll love it. I really do. So,
Yeah.
this head here, this head here is pretty much indestructible. I did a video and I shot one of them at point blank range into a concrete block, not a cinder block, an actual concrete block. Did not damage the head at all. In fact, it's one of these blades that's in here. And actually had to chisel the blade out of the concrete block. I mean, it was absolutely insane. They're so durable. I mean, if you get these guys that go, oh, I hit an elk, right in the front leg or whatever. If you're one of those guys, then this is the head for you. If you're going to be shooting like right into heavy bone because you don't want to stay off of the heavy bone, whatever. Maybe if I was going for like some sort of buffalo or something, I'd probably go with something like this, some big, really heavy. Again, I think this is a heck of a hog head. I mean, if I lived in Texas, this would be all it would be on the end of my arrows, because if I lived in Texas, I'd be shooting hogs every day of the year. I love it so much. So when I shot those 2 hogs a couple weeks ago, I was like a little kid. I mean, seriously, that was the most fun I've had in eons. So yeah, it'd been a long time since I'd shot hogs with my bow. So
Yeah. I've been seeing that more and more lately now on YouTube, and seeing how fun people are actually having with it. I've never done it. I've never been down there to Texas to do anything like that, but they hear stories of, "Oh, man, I had a blast," and seeing I think I watched a video of Chris shooting them from the helicopter. I was like, "Oh,
yeah.
that's freaking badass, man."
Yeah, no, it's just a lot of fun. Sometimes it's fun just to go and hunt animals where there's no pressure. Nobody cares about inches of antler. Nobody cares about this or that. I mean, you shoot a little football-sized pig, or you can shoot a 200-pound boar. Who cares? It's just fun, and
Right.
sometimes that's fun. I mean, maybe that's part of the reason I love turkey hunting so much too, is yeah, I don't really want to shoot jakes, but a longbeard's a longbeard's a longbeard to me. Like if he gobbles and he struts and he comes on in, I don't care if he's got 7/8 inch spurs or inch and a half spurs or a 10-inch beard or an 8-inch beard. I don't care. I mean, I think we all get burnt out on the inches of antler thing. As much as I love shooting, big deer and everything, it just, everybody's trying to compare themselves, on social media with somebody else. And man, I didn't live up to the hype, or I don't want to shoot this deer because I don't want my buddies to say this or that. And, that's kind of the hog thing, man. It's fun. It's just fun. Nobody cares,
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think a lot of that stuff is getting blown out of proportion now these days. I mean, everyone's got that competitive nature in you, but it's like, I just want to go out there and have fun. And
yeah.
at the end of the day, yes, in my opinion, for me, I want to shoot the biggest deer. I know most every hunter wants to shoot the biggest, baddest buck they can. But if at the end of the day you see a 60, a score of a 60 buck, and that got your heart beating out of your chest, freaking shoot it, man, and have fun.
Exactly.
Are you proud of it? Can you put your head to bed saying, "I'm happy with that deer that I shot"? Oh yeah, man, I'm proud of it. Then post that shit all over the internet. Be happy
Yeah.
with it. Don't care what your neighbor or your friends think. You're happy with it, and I guarantee you, your buddies had problems. They missed deer, so whatever, they can heck off.
Yep.
Whatever.
Yep. No, I totally agree, man. I'm at that kind of point. It's like I get so tired of the social media and everybody comparing each other and everybody judging everybody, and it's just like, man, just go have fun, man. That's why I
Yeah.
really liked so much raising 2 girls on it, is they didn't care. My girls still to this day, they couldn't tell you a 100-inch deer from a 180-inch deer. They have no idea what inches of antler are. They don't know who Lee and Tiffany are. They don't know who the hunting public is. They don't, and I'm not bad mouthing them. What I'm saying is they don't know. They don't know. They don't get on forums. They don't know that. They still have no clue that people judge either other people for, and that's what's fun. It's fun watching other people hunt like that, and seeing the joy in their face. And it sucks. I mean, this is a whole different rabbit hole, but it sucks just watching all the bullshit that goes on social media and people judging each other. And, it's so stupid, man. This is all about having fun, so.
It is. And you're right. I completely agree with you on that point. And for people I really don't,
Yeah, I get it, man. I get it.
it's just sad to see that. It's like, really, who cares? Just
Yeah.
if you get excitement out of just going out and shooting a deer, and say you don't shoot a buck, say you shoot a spike. I mean, my buddy Dan on the show, he it's his second year hunting. Excuse me. And he shot, what was it, a 3-pointer?
Mm-hmm.
Not the biggest deer, but you know what? That's the deer that's going to go with him for the rest of his life, because he picked the stand location, he hung the stand, shot the deer,
Mm-hmm.
tracked the deer. He did all that himself, gutting the deer. He did
Yeah.
all that by himself. And he's like, that's not your biggest buck, but you know what? I'm dang freaking proud of it, man. And I'm happy with it. And to see people like, who cares?
Who cares, man?
Have fun and be enjoying the woods. I don't.
Yep. Yeah, dude, there's a buck back here. This buck right here is my favorite deer I've ever killed. Right here. And I've never put a tape on him, and I'd be shocked if he goes 115 inches.
Yeah.
My favorite deer I've ever killed, because this deer here, I took a buck decoy out. I sat on the ground turkey hunting style with my bow, set a buck decoy out 25 yards from me. It was 70 degrees in the middle of the rut. Didn't even really want to go hunt, but it's a rut. Sat there on the ground, self-filmed the whole thing. He came out posturing, walked right up to that decoy. I put a black hornet Sarah razor right through his shoulder. He went 80 yards, piled up and then died. The whole thing self-filmed, sitting on the ground, no blind, no BS. Probably one of the hardest things you can freaking do deer hunting. That deer right there. And I had people go like, why did you kill that deer? I'm like, dude, I killed that deer because that was a badass way to hunt. And I documented it all on film myself. And that's what it should be about. And it got me so excited, more excited than any other deer I've ever killed. That guy right there. So,
Yeah, that's. I feel like you and I can have a long conversation about this.
Yeah, I just get so tired of it. I get so tired of it. So
I got to a point now where my producer and I were getting fed up with it, in the sense of once every Sunday we're doing a recorded show and releasing it, of how tired of this type of stuff we are, especially with hunting nowadays dying and new kids not getting into it, and seeing them. I mean, we got to get them involved, and for them to be scared of, well, I don't want people to judge me if I don't shoot that big buck, so I don't want to go out there and hunt at all. No, get them outside.
Mm-hmm.
Get them enjoying with it. But like I said, this is like a rabbit hole we could probably go down for a
No,
while.
I know. So, I know.
There was a comment that it looks like I missed, that there was a question in it. Don asks, as a business owner in the hunting industry, what would you say to a content creator looking to shoot, buy some of your broadheads and testing them and promoting them?
Yeah. So this applies. So I've worked with a lot of different brands. And again, so here's what I'll say. I don't care if it's a broadhead, a camo company, a boot company, a bow company. You got to, first of all, you got to want to shoot that product because you believe in that brand and that product. It's not, like, hey, I just want to be sponsored by a bow company, so I don't care. I'm going to go out, and whoever gives me a bow, that's what I'm going to do. They see that, they smell that a mile away. So you really, really, really have got to believe in the product and the brand and what you want. Believe in the way it performs. You got to be genuine. You have got to show them something different. You got to understand, whether it's video, photography, online influencer, social media presences, they've seen it all. So you can't. I've heard so many times people tell me that they're going to start filming and they're going to be the next Michael Waddell, or they're going to be the next Lee and Tiffany, or they're going to be the next Hunting Public. And I'm like, no, you're not, dude. because there's only one Michael Waddell, there's only one Lee and Tiffany, there's only one Hunting Public. There's only one of all these different names, and they all had a little twist and unique way that they did it. Even though when you start looking at hunting content, photography, video, promotion, it may kind of look very similar across the board. The ones who make it, they put their own twist and flavor on it, and that's what these brands like to see. They want to see, what is it, Don, in your case, that you can provide that's a slightly different look or take or something on it. It might be your personality. It might be you, the way you do reviews and the way you come across, and you just have that booming, wonderful personality that gravitates people to you. It might be a unique skill set, that you have. It might be a certain flair in your editing style or whatever. Or, I mean, there's just a gazillion different things that they look at, but you got to find that one thing that differentiates you from everybody else. I really, really believe that this has probably been my number one thing for me, is relationships. And I mean meaningful relationships. Like these people, these brands that I work for, these are legitimately some of my best friends. I had a working relationship with Athens Archery. Sadly, it was only a couple of years old, but I really got to know Tracy and Jim of Athens very well. Tracy she's wonderful, but she is a very guarded person and doesn't let people in. And somehow, through my personality and the hard work and everything, I cracked that nut, and I got in. And she welcomed me with open arms and everything. And while Athens just did recently go under, which I feel horrible for them. I mean, I have my thoughts and opinions on different things, but at the end of the day, two of my close friends now had to close down their business, and it hurt. It hurt me to see them go through that. It hurt, to see what happened to dealers and stuff. But I say all that because that was all based on a relationship. Yes, there's deliverables that I had certain talents or developed certain talents or skill sets to do, but it was built on a relationship. And that's the whole thing, is building relationships. And that's hard. It's really hard when you're somebody in Tennessee or Georgia and you don't have a foot in the door. You just got to figure out how to get that foot in the door and meet certain people. And the best thing really to do is start with these smaller brands. I mean, look, it's hard if you go knock on Toxie Hayes' door to try and get into Mossy Oak, good luck. That guy's seen it all. I mean, you really need to focus on some smaller brands, some mom and pop stuff, and get to know those people, because those people are still doing the grind day to day. And if you can relate to them, build up that friendship and say, here's how I can help you, and here's what I'm going to do for you, and I'm going to over deliver. I'm going to tell you I'm going to do A, B, C, and D, but I'm going to give you A, B, C, D, E, G, F, G, H. I'm going to give you a whole freaking alphabet of stuff. That stuff ends up paying off dividends in the long run. And for me, this has been a slow burn. Like I say, Mike Slom and he was my first relationship in this industry. That was 2009. Here we are in 2024, and it's taken a long time, to get to this. And I'm not big by any means. I mean, my YouTube channel's got 6,600 subs, and, which isn't much when you sit and look at Hunting Public and Seek One and all this and all these guys. But it's a slow burn. It's all been about relationships, and not having any expectations. It's doing it for the love of it. I mean, seriously, it's a passion project. That's my advice to people. Be different, build it on relationships, do it because you love it, not because you want to be somebody, you don't want to look at me type of thing or whatever. I mean, it just really has got to be genuine. So
that's a good point. You got me speechless there. I mean, I think relationships are key in any facet, and to be able to do it that route and kind of start small, like you said, and grow yourself and kind of get your roots planted somewhere.
Yeah.
You got to build a house somehow. You got to start a foundation.
Yeah. I mean, I see it again, because Mike and I work together so much. I go to ATA with Mike every year. I mean, I've been going for years. And I get people that reach out, and I do a lot of tech support for Mike, and so I'm dealing with a lot of customers, dealing with a lot of people who want to be on pro staffs or influencers. Hey, if you sign me up, look, I can really build the brand for you, this and that. And man, I've just heard it all. And I remember being, before I was in this industry, like, boy, man, wouldn't it be so cool to be able to do this and that and everything. And the moment somebody walks in and says, hey, man, here you go. Here's my logo and here's this and that. And here's what I can do for you. And I start going, man, slow down. Just slow your roll, because I've heard this speech 1,000 times. If you walk over there and talk to that man, being Mike, he's going to tell you there's the door and get going, because he's heard it all. He's been around in this business. This is year number 40 for Magnus. He has heard it all and seen it all. And there's so many manufacturers that have done that. So again, you just really have got to be a genuine person. You got to love it. You got to want to do this. For me, my whole YouTube thing and this, it's all been a passion project. It's just because I love doing it. And, I mean, yeah, I get paid now to do it. Trust me, I'm not retiring on it. And if you even knew how much money has gone into this on my end all these years, it doesn't pay for itself now. But it's fun, and I do it because I absolutely love it. I love filming. I love editing. I love shooting photos. I'd be doing it whether I was working with these companies or not. I love doing it, so.
How would someone that wants to ask like these higher companies in the field, how would you suggest someone maybe approaching that instead of coming out, hey, this is what I got, like everyone else you said?
Yeah.
How would you tell someone, if you really want to stand out, besides the relationship part, building on that, how would you tell someone to maybe go about it on a different way?
Yeah, it's man, that's hard. That's like I've been married 30 years, and that's like somebody asked me, hey, Derek, if you weren't married right now and you were on the dating scene, how would you go about it? And I'd be like, I have no idea. I don't know. It's all changed so much than when we used to go to a movie and go to Pizza Hut. I mean, I don't. Man, gosh, that's such a hard question to answer. So this is just one segment of the hunting industry, and this may not be anybody's area of interest, or maybe a smaller percentage, but the mobile hunting thing is a huge craze now. Saddle hunting, being mobile, light tree stands and all that. And that's now how I deer hunt. I mean, I saddle hunt, I one stick, all this stuff, and I absolutely love it. That's a small segment of the hunting industry that is mostly made up of very small companies. I mean, Tethered being probably one of the larger ones. I mean, you got Lone Wolf Custom Gear. Even them, they're still relatively small. But so if you were, and I'm only using this, so you got to find your niche. What's your niche? But say you're into mobile hunting, like I am, and you're not in the hunting industry. That is a place where you can get in front of small companies, whether it is through reaching out on social media, whether it's going to different hunting expos. There's the Mobile Hunter Expo that it's like this year it's going to be in somewhere down in Georgia, I believe. And it's going to be out in Pennsylvania, and there's going to be one in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Go to those events. I know Lone Wolf Custom Gear's got their Mobile Hunter Roadshow. Go to maybe one of those events. Go to if you're in Iowa, go to the Iowa Deer Classic and talk to just find those small companies that are in that niche that you want to get into, that you're passionate about. I mean, look, if you're not a passionate turkey hunter, you just like, I'm a casual turkey hunter. Well, then that really isn't beneficial for you to go and try and sell your talents to, say, Magnus when it comes to bullheads, or Dave Smith decoys when it comes to decoys, or Avian X, or it really doesn't. You got to be passionate about the facet of hunting that you want to be involved in, and find those small companies, and get to know them, walk up, shake their hand, say, hey, really interested in your products. I've been using your saddle or whatever, or your platform, and what do you got going on, and this and that, and like, hey, I have a small YouTube channel, and little social media channel. Could maybe I borrow you for like 5 minutes, and we just do show me your your new platform for saddle hunting in just 5 minutes. They'll do that. They'll be like, oh, sure. Boom. Put it up on your YouTube channel, tag them in some stuff, start building those relationships and just building it over time. And next thing you know, I mean, a couple of years go by and you've built a relationship, you're talking to them and, Hunter Smith's, I'm just making it Hunter Smith's saddle gear. He's like, man, boy, Brett, he's done several reviews on our stuff. He gives us a lot of love. Hey, maybe we'll kick him a saddle or two or something and have him do some reviews or, there's just different things you can do and you can apply that to anything, man. I mean, if you're into building custom cars, restoring cars, it doesn't matter. You can use these tricks for anything. But if you're going to go after the big dogs, like, man, if you're going to walk up to Matthews and go, man, tell you what, here's what you're missing. You need me. And you need to name that next bow after me. They're going to he's like, get out of here, man.
Right.
It's just using common sense. It's being a good human. How would you also put yourself in their shoes? Okay. You get Brett, Brett, you walk up and go, man, if I had Brett's bows, would I want every Tom, Dick, and Harry coming up here and telling me how great they are and all that stuff? Think of it from their perspective, because they get it all the time. They get every other person that walks up to them at the shows. They get it constantly on social media, messages, this and that. I mean, it's just, so it takes so much time, man. It really does. It's all about relationships. I mean, that's what's worked for me. Now, I might be somebody else has a different way of doing it, but what works for me is relationships. I know a lot of people in this hunting industry, and I know a lot of them have based it on relationships. So if not, they smell it out, man. They'll smell you out. And, you might have a short, like you might ride going 100 miles an hour, but it's going to be a very short window and you're going to crash and burn. So,
right. Then it seems like nowadays, a new hunting channel or page popping up every 5 seconds. And it's like, how am I going to have this is what I can do for you guys. But it's like, you just started and you don't really have anything to base off of. I mean, I've talked to someone else in the hunting industry and I can't remember what his name was, but he's like, they like to see kind of your history. Like, for instance, I think he used Instagram over time. He said they want to see how you've kind of promoted them without telling them kind of about it and see how you originally started and progressed over time.
Yep. They do. And, and you got to be willing to do a lot of stuff for free for a long time.
Right.
I mean, you really do. You really do. I mean, I remember the first time I had a dozen arrows sent to me, I was like, oh my God, I've made it. And look, products easy. I mean, it's easy for somebody to throw somebody 2 packs of broadheads and be like, here you go. And then all of a sudden, look, I'm officially like employed or a representative of this company and like, no, they just kicked you a couple packs of broadheads, dude. Like, but you got to be grateful.
Yeah.
You got to be grateful and you got to be humble, over deliver. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send them, Joe down the street sent him 3 photos. I'm going to send him 30 photos, so-and-so did 2 videos. I'm going to do 10 videos,
Yeah.
But also not look like a product whore too. At the same time, we've all seen it. Everybody bitches, when you watch hunting TV about it being a NASCAR commercial. Well, you got to find a way to be, to be tactful about it. Not, like to thank Charmin toilet paper. I could not have done this without Charmin toilet paper. It's
right. Yeah, I've seen videos and it's just constant, like I said, like right in your face all the time, and it's like,
yeah,
I feel like you go a better route of like promoting this brand, and you're just kind of like, it's making me at a point where it's like, I don't want to talk to them or anything because you're just being overselling, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah. I like, if you watch a lot of my videos that I do, a lot of the brand, like if it's a deer hunt video, and there's brands that I work with, and obviously, they expect to see their product in the content I do. You're not going to see the logos. I'm not flashing up a Magnus logo or an Athens logo or a Hotshot logo or any of these others. Typically what you're going to see is about a 1 second, maybe 2 second B-roll shot of, say, a Hotshot release hanging on a string. It'd be like in slow-mo as you're like, and maybe I'm clipping it on, you let go and like, boom. And it's like 2 seconds. That's it. That's it. But people know it. They saw it. Might be the Huntworth logo, on my clothing or something like that. They're going to just see that for 1, maybe 2 seconds, and that's it. We're not going to camp out on here. I'm not going to tell you how great Huntworth clothing is and all that. You can watch one of my review videos for that. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm sitting in the tree and I'm wearing my Huntworth with heat boost and this is the best thing ever. And I'd be freezing. Like, you're not hearing that from me in a hunt video, period, ever. You're going to see the logo in there some point, very briefly, 1 second, maybe 2, off air beforehand. You and I were talking about these Saturday, Sunday videos I do. They're 1 second clips if you ever watch them. It's how to tell a story. And I do this a lot in my hunting videos, how to tell a story with these very short clips. If you watch commercials on TV, if you watch, a lot of shows, unless it's a long interview thing, the camera cuts are quick. They're 1 second, 2 second. It engages your brain. So these people think that I got to talk about all the benefits of a Magnus broadhead in my deer hunting video. No, you don't. No, you don't. You know what you need? You need 1 second of showing that as you pan across it real slow. Boom, 1 second, maybe 2 seconds tops. That's all you need to show. That's it. You don't need to show it again. That's it. Period. So, and if I sit in there and go, today I'm deer hunting and we've got the single buff and this is the new product. I'm so excited to be in the tree today hunting this. It's product whore. It's absolute product whore. So,
and I'll make this last comment before we kind of get going that's what I like most about YouTube videos, in the sense of what I'm looking for are those quote unquote soft sells where you're panning. You're only seeing that because I'm looking for that. It's like, what's he using? I know it's not like a big selling video, so it's like I want to see what he's kind of using, what's making him great. And you perfectly said it. It's a small pan. He's not selling anything. He's not mentioning it at all. It's like, hey, it's there, and this is where we're going off to. And it's like, all right, I'm gonna pause the video, screenshot it, zoom in on the photo. Okay, that's the hunting logo there. That's that hunting logo. I'm going to copy and put it in the Google. Oh, I've heard about them. I'm going to look them up. And now you're forced to look them up. You're finding more reviews about them. You're doing your own research instead of someone blaring it right in your face.
Yeah. Yeah. And the beauty of it is, and I had a conversation recently with Aaron Warbritton about this, because Magnus works with the hunting public guys. And Aaron and I were talking about it. I'm like, what works so well about you guys is, while we got this working relationship and as a business one, it's not they're not married to the Magnus brand. And the way they do it, it's very organic. So now when the viewer watches that, he goes, Ted uses those Magnus heads a lot, and somebody else on the team might use another head. It's very organic. And that's what I try and do, again, with these short little windows. You see it, it's very organic. I'm not sitting here shoving it in your face. You got to buy this because this is the greatest USA made lifetime warranty, badass head in the world. No, it's just very organic. It is what it is. And, a lot of times it leads to just what you're saying. Somebody pauses it. I've done it myself. They pause the video, you zoom in, you screenshot it. I had one not long ago. It was actually a tent. I was looking at a new tent option, and I saw it. I'm like, man, that looks really cool. What is that? I got to find out. I couldn't figure it out. So I sent them a message, and next thing you know, now they're engaged. So now there's an engagement. There's a dialogue in the YouTube comments of the video between that, and they can go back to that company. I don't even know if they had a relationship with them, but if they did, and say, look at the engagement that's going on here because of this, and this, so it's very organic, man. That's what you got to go through. Go. That's the angle you got to take. It's got to be organic. You got to be relatable. You can't be a product whore. You just can't.
All right. That's a good point. And with that being said, let's kind of wrap it up for Derek. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Oh, you're fine.
Was there a story or a topic that you didn't get to share or that we didn't get to cover tonight that you wanted to bring up tonight before we get going?
Man, I mean, not really. I mean, it's turkey season. I'm excited to I'm getting on the road tomorrow. I can't wait. Going down to Southern Ohio, come back next week's Indiana. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited about it. It's going to be a compact season for me this year because my daughter graduating college. That's going to mess up a lot of May, but that's cool. That's a good problem to have. But no, I don't really, nothing really. I mean, I just, I hope everybody, go to YouTube and type in New Day Outdoors and hit the subscribe button. That'd be awesome. I really appreciate it. Check out everything on Magnus, their YouTube channel. I'm not big on social media. I mean, I'm on Facebook and I make I don't post a lot. I don't post a lot on Instagram, even though I'm there. I go through these ebbs and flows, but probably one of the best ways to keep up with what I'm doing is go to YouTube, and it's not all hunting stuff, man. I pride myself in my channel with a lot of variety, man. Like last weekend, my Saturday, Sunday videos, me shooting senior photos at Purdue for my daughter, but it's 60 seconds. It's 60 seconds of your life. Watch it, hit the like, it's 60 seconds. Come on, so, but yeah, but next weekends will have turkey hunting in it. Hopefully the turkeys cooperate, but it definitely will have turkey hunting. So,
well, I know you got Jake rooting for you down there.
Yeah. Yes. So,
well, with that being said, Derek, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to come on the show. Thank you for telling your story, your background about you. I can't say thank you enough, and really appreciate it.
So, hey, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I appreciate those who are sitting here making comments. My buddy Jeff Martin said I messed up his month of May too. So there's that. That's awesome. So it's cool. I like this real-time interaction here. This is pretty awesome. But yeah, thanks for having me on. Anytime you want to talk, just let me know, man. So
will do, brother. Have a good night, Derek.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, man. Derek is a great guy. Had him on episode 5 talking about Magnus Broadheads when it first started, Whitetail Advantage Podcast. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you, but everyone knows that I love Magnus Broadheads. They're when I say simple, I mean that in a positive way, in the sense of it's right there. You're going to get what you get out of it. And I'm attention to the detail type of guy. Everyone there at Magnus is attention to detail. I'm not saying all the other companies don't, but I know Magnus, that's like the number one priority. Sorry, I need to grab a drink of water. My mouth's dry after that. He did make a comment that I wanted to mention but I can't remember where we were going with that. So you know what? With that being said, thank you all for tuning in for tonight's show. Please put a quarter in the slot machine, share the show, share the hunting world that it's dying. We need to get it fixed. With that being said, we're going to take it out and see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Whitetail Advantage Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next time.